stripping, getting my own money and leaving. How was I gonna leave if I only made $200 every week? Ain't no way.
So basically stripping saved your life.
Yeah, you know what? It really did though. That's why I would never play the game. A lot of people be like, oh my gosh, like they make it so negative, but like it really saved me from a lot of things. When I started stripping, I went back to school.
Cardi B's rise throughout the music industry has certainly been one for the books. From her debut hit single Bodak Yellow to her award-winning album Invasion of Privacy, nobody can say that Cardi B hasn't already made an impact on the rap game. But what makes Cardi B so appealing is that even with her rise to fame, she still has never forgotten her roots. Cardi B refuses to neglect her past because it has helped mold her into the woman she is today. One great example of this is how Cardi B continues to embrace her identity as a stripper. Cardi B says frequently how she has nothing but love for women in the profession, and instead of belittling exotic dancers, she states that dancers should be respected just as any other entertainer would be. Cardi B goes on further to state, because at the end of the day, just because somebody was a stripper doesn't mean they don't have a brain. Cardi B's representation of dancers is of major importance because she normalizes a profession that has such a negative stigma placed on it by society. Not only does the stigma create a false narrative of the work strippers do, but it also degrades and devalues the women working in these clubs. By dancing, strippers are required to put a certain amount of physical strain on their body. In addition, exotic dancing allows many dancers to have a form of financial stability, which gives them the option to fund their education, support their family, or any other personal endeavors they may have. This counters the popular narrative placed upon strippers, where many people falsely believe that strippers have no ambition or aspiration within their own personal lives. Furthermore, this belief creates a toxic work environment where the dancers are solely viewed as props for the male consumption and not as human beings. This leads to harassment from customers where many of the dancers are made to feel unsafe. To make matters worse, many of the dancers are subjected to the same type of treatment from the club managers, promoters, and security. This lack of respect creates an unregulated environment of toxic masculinity that the female dancers are subjected to. After reading Sarah Haley's book No Mercy Here this summer quarter, I was able to draw certain parallels between the treatment of the women in the convict leasing system in comparison to the strippers performing within the clubs. In both instances, an environment has been created where men look to prey on women because there are a lack of services that protect these women and hold these particular men accountable for their actions. With this video, we hope to bring more awareness to the life of exotic dancers and reflect that the work that they do is a manifestation of hard work and dedication and not a form of taboo. This project is inspired by the work Cardi B has done to humanize the work strippers do and bring forth a more safe and professional work environment within these clubs. Thank you. Speak on respectability politics. How do you see that manifested within the club or within your profession?
I think actually the lack of clothing in a club speaks a lot to respectability politics within the club. When I think about how sometimes at this club they sell alcohol, right? So drunk men approach women with already this because you're walking into this setting, a lot of men already sort of throw respect out of the window in a lot of ways. Whether that's slapping your ass without tipping you because of what you're wearing, right? Mm-hmm. Literally because of what you're wearing. Usually the lack of respect is what brings these men into the club too. But it is a dark setting, people go there to sort of gain some sort of fantasy entertainment, something that they can't really attain in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's, some weird ass kink that they're into and they're not open about it or ashamed in their real life, but no, I think a lot of these men already come into the club with a certain type of mindset. I'm generalizing. There's been amazing people that I've met at the club as well. Like, one of my best friends in the city. But and even a handful of men that are actually friends now. Hell yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think people get mad at stripping because it's like women making money off a system that's made to fuck them over, and then they just turn it back around. And that's what upsets people, actually. Like, most of the time, that's like the deeper root of why most of the time men get mad that you're a dancer. Almost even like aggressive. But yeah, I think it's still a sales job, right? Like we talked about, it's still a sales job, and it's still just as inconsistent as a sales job. But I think for someone that's coming from the dirt, it's definitely a level up, for sure. Yeah. Dancer, a mom, a first generation from the Bronx, from the projects, she sort of hits all these like tally marks, and it's refreshing to see an authentic, whether you think like mainstream, all her videos and all that shit is like now becoming a little bit like too commercialized, right? She started off like an authentic down ass stripper bitch, and that's something that for sure I respect and I do think is like impactful for girls at the club. So there's a lot of respect that I have for seeing a dancer come up and really be able to broaden her future, her family's future, because not only does her success belong to her, she's also carrying a lot of weight behind that. So my last quarter at UCLA, besides this class, my last class for my for my major, my final actually got rejected because I had written a research paper on labor studies with the focus of sex work and stripping. And that was my first time ever writing about dance in like a more academic sense. And it was very scary for me. So that paper getting rejected just fucking fucked me up. And it fueled me too. So I redid that paper, and then I got an A in the class and an A in the paper. And fuck that professor. But when I saw the description of this class, I was like, yes. I was already crying that I had to take a summer class. So yeah, because I feel passionate about the things being discussed in this class. And I think, I don't think UCLA is friendly to Black and brown folks, non-traditional folks. I don't think UCLA creates like a safe enough, broad enough space for those types of students that transfer in. And I definitely wanted my voice to be heard because I'm a dancer and I go to UCLA. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Talk that shit to these niggas, Adrian Broner, but secure the window, don't let the game fool ya. Cause when it's game over, it's really game over. And all they do is play the game till it's game over. And you be giving game like a big brother mission, never let them take it from us. Last time that I checked.
Before we move into our discussion about Cardi B playing the game, We will first discuss the historical stereotypes of black women, now salient features of our contemporary society. Historically, since U.S. slavery, black women and men have been viewed as deprived sexually. Focusing particularly on black women, some ideas that were perpetuated during slavery centered on their supposed natural savagery and loose sexuality. In fact, powerful imagery was socially constructed that served to exemplify ideas of their supposed hypersexuality. For example, tropes like the Jezebel were imagery that helped condition Americans to view black women as hypersexual. Jezebel essentialized black women as lewd and was a counter-image to Western culture's moral, astute Victorian lady. Further, the trope of Jezebel served to portray black women as having uncontrolled sexual impulses, as always desirous of sex and immoral. But while stereotypes such as the Jezebel can certainly shape the way black women come to see themselves in the world, it can be reappropriated to fit their needs as desired and desiring subjects. In the case of rapper Cardi B, she is fully aware of the negative societal views that associate black women with hypersexuality. Instead of allowing these labels to confine, define, and determine her individuality, she has refashioned these negative tropes not only as a form of resistance, but in a way that allows her ownership over her labor and body while challenging contemporary notions of womanhood. As author of the famous book Brown Sugar so eloquently said, in response to black women reappropriating historically negative sexual stereotypes, that such actions can be seen as a bid to reshape the terms assigned to black womanhood. Cardi B's decision to enter into a realm of stigmatization, i.e. stripping, in her earlier career can be motivated by a number of reasons. It could be political, a means of self-expression and respect. Respect in this instance refers to being acknowledged, valued, and dignified as a human being with her own unique interests, desires, and needs. It could be economic, a means of survival, as there are very few avenues available to black women to experience upward social mobility. Whatever the case, Cardi B and other black women who decide to enter into the scene of stripping, even with the negative narrative conservative black women's sexual promiscuity, is a powerful way of redefining what respectable womanhood means. Whatever the case, Cardi B and other black women who decide to enter into the scene of stripping, even with the negative narrative concerning black women's sexual promiscuity, is a powerful way of redefining what respectable womanhood means. It is a powerful expression of one's own authenticity, staying true to oneself. However, while some black women may utilize stripping as a means of ownership and economic survival, society as well as members within the black community may view such a career as only exacerbating the negative stereotypes concerning black women. The solution proposed by society, including black Americans, has been assimilation or practicing respectability politics. Respectability politics was pioneered by a group of black women elites in the early formations of the black church to thwart and challenge racist and stereotypic views of blacks from dominant society. These black women believed that the practice of respectability politics would serve the dual purpose of upward social mobility for blacks while simultaneously earning respect from white America. However, as Sarah Hall brings out, practicing respectability politics can at times be problematic. While it functions as a mechanism to thwart racism, it ties group identity and success together. If a black person doesn't experience what society views as success, then the whole group becomes a site for antagonism, racial stereotyping, and apathy. So what is the solution? How can we resolve the human need for individuality, freedom of expression, and at times situations where we may need to conform or be respectful, quote unquote? Centering Cardi B back into our discussion, there are lessons we can learn from her example as a pioneer in American culture. I believe that the value she adds to the black community is that she understands both the need to be authentic and to perform respectability politics, which I refer to as playing the game. Practicing respectability politics does not have to necessarily stifle one's individual authenticity. An individual just must be aware that they're playing a game. To play the game is to be conscientious of societal norms and how these customs have a coercive power towards individual conformity. Living in Western culture with its propensity towards Christian views and morals must be acknowledged because such views are pervasive and omnipresent. These views have become normalized to the point where they appear natural, and as a result, we often take them for granted. However, just because these rules are hegemonic does not mean we have to be in full subjection. As many of our grandparents would say, you have to know the rules to break them. Once we understand how society operates, we can begin to strategically create stages to express our individuality. For Cardi B, her example as a former stripper to now one of the music industry's most successful artists was a process. She understood the need to pay her dues, which required a level of conformity to secure the win. For most artists, once they reach a certain level of success, they are able to take ownership of their labor and body in individual forms of expression without the need of constant conformity.
In my personal school and college experience, there's always been a clear racial and class divide. People tend to want to hang out with their peers that they feel they can relate to the most, and dancers seem to follow this trend as well. For starters, most dancers tend to refer to themselves as dancers, and their jobs is dancing, which is understandable since it holds a much less negative connotation than strippers and stripping. In an anonymous interview, I asked a dancer if she would ever buy leather or vinyl thigh-high boots, to which her reply was no, they're kind of ghetto and only black girls really wear them. She's obviously not black, and her response, although awful, speaks volumes of what dancers think of each other. Even at the club, where all working women there are equal, some seem to idealize a higher class of dancers as those who perform with certain articles of clothing rather than others. Based off comments like these, they also seem to couple class with race, which is sad to hear. Cardi B is an inspiration for many reasons. She is a rags to riches American story, but unlike that classic story, her days in poverty started out as a dancer in strip clubs. This New York rap artist has never remained shy about who she is and what she used to do to pay her rent, whether it be dancing or using men. She mentioned in an interview once that she used to dance at a white club where most of the patrons and dancers were white. She said that being black and being the way she was, she had trouble making as much money as some of her fellow white dancers, adding to this idea of racial divide at these clubs. Whether it's music or her personal stories, she is always shining attention on dancers and further pulling them out of the taboo category. Because she has never compromised herself, down to the way she expressively articulates herself about her music, humor, and as of recent political topics, this influence has held even heavier. She's the kind of girl we all knew in middle school. This, combined with her objectification of men in some of her songs, celebration of women twerking in music videos with the likes of other female artists like City Girls, all while maintaining a relatable image, has skyrocketed her in success just as equally. Cardi B may not have been the first female rapper of color to reach success with a sexuality-driven image like Lil' Kim and Nicki Minaj before her, but her appearance has forever changed the male-dominated industry. Since Cardi B became a household name, she has opened the door for other strong, original, natural, and talented black female artists like her to come up and embrace their sexualities in music as well. Just to name a few, Megan Thee Stallion, Saweetie, and Cupcake have been widely accepted for their unapologetically and sexually expressive selves, all while maintaining success off of it. Should Cardi B be an inspiration for younger girls today? At the superficial level of her music and dancing, probably not. Is that going to stop them from watching her? Definitely not. Is she an inspiration for women and other female artists of color for confidently owning their sexualities? Absolutely. Are the core values on feminism, race, self-empowerment, respect, and politics she's always preaching on social media role model worthy? Absolutely. Cardi B isn't for children, but she also isn't responsible for being their role model because she's busy being an exceptional one for adult women of color.